Okay, for this 3D printed door, the insert is laser cut wood with epoxy poured in. Um, First, you want to put painter's tape on the back of the panel. This is going to hold the first layer of the epoxy. I use a small bottle of UV resin, and so that's the epoxy. And so I either mix the color and put it in a separate bottle or put it in a little jar and just hand drop into each one of these inserts. This is after the initial layer. So the initial layer is just clear and it's very thin against the painter's tape. And then I put it under the UV light, let that dry and get hard, and then take the painter's tape off. That will create like a barrier, a base level barrier, so that the rest of the colored epoxy won't bleed through underneath. And then for each different color, yeah, it's just really tedious when you're putting it in, whether you're using a dropper bottle or you're using like a toothpick or a popsicle stick. I've used all three. Basically, you want to make sure the resin, the epoxy gets to every single corner of that particular shape that you're dropping in. If you have any gaps where it doesn't reach all sides of the laser cut piece, then you're gonna have gaps and inconsistencies. And I still even get bubbles, even though I can't sometimes physically see them until it's dry. Then I'll see the bubbles. But you still have to make sure that the epoxy, like I'm doing here, I'm making sure it goes to every single corner, deep in the corner. Because if it doesn't, then you'll either have leakage from underneath, which you would have had on the first layer, or you'll see the inconsistencies in the color. And I have to do it in layers and layers, pretty thin layers, because I want to make sure that nothing in the middle is uncured, which it can happen with UV resin, especially. If it was just the regular two-part epoxy, I could let that sit overnight. But you really don't have much room for error. You kind of have to pour it all and then let it sit overnight and let it sit for hours and dry. The UV resin dries really fast under a nail UV light. But again, I do those in layers because I want to make sure each layer is dry before I add onto it and thicken it up. You don't want to have the center of the resin still be sticky. So here I am just taking the toothpick and spreading it, making sure it gets all across. And I just do this over and over again, depending on what colors I want, where I want to put them. I also notice that after it dries, the metal kind of sinks in a little bit. So then that is need for another layer to be added in as well. So this is what it looks like when it's finished. As you can see, there's there's a couple of bubbles in there, and I don't really see them. Maybe it's my eyesight, but I don't see them very well as I'm pouring it and stuff, and I miss some bubbles. But the backside of this one, I did one layer of clear over it to seal it because I did have some gaps. But anyway, I've measured those panels to fit inside the doors that I've designed for 3D printing. And then they just fit in snugly. I add a little bit of glue and I can insert those panels in there. And this is what they look like when finished. Now this back panel, this is the inside interior panel that doesn't get attached to the frame until it's installed into the, into the dollhouse. But this is what the finished product looks like. And they're coming out really good. My goal is to have them in different colors, like maybe white doors with panels, maybe even some wood ones. But yeah,